Are you a law firm owner drowning in tasks that keep you from growing your law practice? The key to blasting through isn't working harder, it's mastering the art of delegation. Well, hello, my name is Jeff Hughes and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Sterling Lawyers. We are a 25 plus attorney family law firm doing over 15 million in revenue. And my purpose here is to help other family lawyers build the practice of their dreams. In this video, we will cover why we resist delegating, what happens when we learn to delegate really well, and 3, how to actually do that well. So I had lunch not too long ago with an attorney that I deeply respect. In fact, when I first started practicing law in 1997, I would see him in court occasionally. We would bump into each other. I didn't know him well. He was a little intimidating, a stoic guy, bigger, perfectly well-groomed, and spoke well, and just seemed to be the model of success. He's about 2 or 3 years older than me, and I really just thought he had the full package. We were together for lunch one day, and I was talking with him. And at that time, his firm, and it still does, has about 7 or 8 attorneys, and ours was much bigger than that. And we were talking about how we build our firms and how we can go about helping each other continue to build our practices. He's in a different practice area than we're in. And he asked me, like, what have you done to grow like you have? And so I walked through some of the things that we have done to get there. And he just made a real honest assessment with me. He's, look, I'm not willing to let other people do the work like that. I'm not willing to delegate. And so I guess that you have to decide between growth or control. And I just choose control. I appreciated his clear-eyed perspective on that. And certainly that is a respectable position to take. And in his case, he has another partner. They've got a few direct reports and they just keep a really sharp eye on those direct reports and they go about their practice. But for so many of us, we want something a little different than that. We want to grow our practice, or we want to do less work and still have our practice. My buddy, he works tons of hours and keeps his practice going, just keeps all these plates spinning, and by his own admission, just doesn't enjoy delegating, doesn't want to do that. And so delegation for me has been one of the gifts I think God has given me, the ability to delegate and trust. Now there's dark sides to that. There's over delegating. There's abdication, that you can get to that level. There's 2 sides to this delegation coin. But I want to share with you today are my best thinking and observations on delegating. And I'm going to start first with why. Why do we resist delegating? I think there's really 8 reasons that stick out to me. And the first one is the competence trap. We enjoy doing some things in our practice. We just are good at them. We get an endorphin rush from them. We just help people through them. And so that just thrills us. But sometimes those things that we're really good at, that we're not willing to let someone else do, we're so competent in them that we can't let someone else do them. So it's really good to check these items off our list. A second reason why we resist delegating is that the false economy myth. And so we convince ourselves that we're the lowest cost option to do this. I can do this faster than anyone. But this thinking fails to account for the opportunity cost. What would higher value work do for our firm? If I were able to do higher value work, that this freeing me up from doing this task that I'm really good at, what would that give our firm? So we fall into this false economy of thinking it's the cheapest option for me to do it than teaching someone else how to do it. And so we tell ourselves, I can't afford to delegate. The truth is, for most things, you can't afford not to if you want to have freedom and if you want to grow your practice. A third reason is just laziness. It takes work to delegate. It takes time to delegate. So ironically, we avoid delegation because we think it's more work. A twisted logic there, but we all fall into that. There's a little bit of laziness. And it seems that it's just easier to handle something ourselves than to explain it, than to follow up, than to provide feedback. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it myself. Fourth one, insecurity. There's a part of us, for a lot of us, deep down inside, deep recesses of our dark mind, that someone else will be a little better at it than me, and I might feel less important. So we're insecure. That insecurity, by the way, is a massive lid on most leaders and law firms. It holds us back in so many vital ways. A fifth reason, pride. I don't have time to train someone because I'm so important that I can't help them get better and do that. Well, the truth is, initial investments repay exponential time in the future. 1 hour training can save dozens or hundreds later. Number 6, fear. That is certainly something that holds us back from trusting and delegating. It goes like this. I tried delegating that before and it didn't work and it blew up in my face, and so I'm not ever going to delegate again. The truth is, delegation is a skill that improves with practice. And I know that as lawyers, and I've been there, I've done that. We all do this, right? And that is, we're afraid that some other attorney is going to do poor work and it's going to somehow blow up in a client. And there's so many ways to prevent that from happening with just modest oversight and management processes that we don't need to be afraid of that. Another one, number 7, the quality compromise myth. So many of us attorneys fear that delegation will reduce quality, my firm's reputation will suffer, my personal reputation will go into the trash can, and it'll just be a horrible life from there on out. Yes, there's elements, there's shades, right, of truth into that. But initially, there's gonna be a learning curve. When you delegate, learns how to do it. With proper systems, you can improve quality. And what we have found is that as a firm, we have learned how to get better at proper delegation. It's come because we do fixed fee, because it's so much easier for us to delegate in fixed fee than it is in hourly. And so what we have found is that clients prefer consistently good service over that sporadic excellence. And that consistently good service has come as we have gotten better and better corporately at delegating out. And the last reason I think a lot of us just simply don't delegate is that we're just ignorant. We don't simply, honestly know how or where to start. And I certainly have fallen into this, and occasionally I find myself falling back into this ignorance hole. I haven't thought about it enough to think about how I can delegate this out. And I remember early in my practice, I had an incredible assistant, Jean. She was terrific. I didn't barely know where to get to the courthouse, and my assistant had been practicing for years at this point, decades, and she knew so much more than me, and she would give me these cassette tapes back then. She would tell me, okay, you need to dictate into this the letter that you want me to write. And so I learned how to do that. And it was probably 2 years into the practice before I realized, wait a second, I can do way more than dictate here. I can actually go through and describe something that I want done in a file, and Gene will go do all this work. And so it was like the world opened up to me, and now I had all of these new things that I could delegate out. And it was just ignorance. Just didn't know that was possible, and learned a lot there that really helped me do that. I think those are some of the big factors that hold us back from properly delegating well. But when we do learn how to do it and we start to do it, there are some massive wins that come into play. I would think there's really 3 big ones that stick out. One is you win. If for no other reason, do it because you win. Here's how you do that. When you delegate well and you delegate a lot, it frees up your time for higher value activities. And almost everyone I've ever met, the higher value activity we do, the more that we enjoy that. It just feels good to do those things that give us those big, massive returns. You learn how to develop leadership skills. They're worth so much more as a whole than technical skills. Then we start to practice. And those first couple years are almost always dedicated to technical skills, learning how to actually practice law, serve clients, and do all of that. But when you can layer on top of that leadership ability, where you can get things done through others and effectively lead others. If you're like, I don't want to be a leader, I just want to practice law. That is the majority of us, no doubt about that. The more you can delegate and the more margin you can create in your life, the more of a reduction in burnout and your job satisfaction goes up. It's just that whole mental and morale part of practicing law improves. Those that you have working with you, they develop new skills, gain more confidence in their practice and what they're doing. They feel trusted. When you give someone work to do, they're like, oh, you trust me. You value me. You appreciate what I'm doing, that you're giving me this work to do. They understand that their role is more integral to the firm's success, and they become more engaged and more committed in what they're doing to improve your practice. And third, your clients win. Your client wins when you delegate well. They get the service from the people that specialize in those specific tasks. They benefit oftentimes from a fresher, less burned out professionals that will spend more time with them, be more patient with them. If your assistant, for example, they receive more attention as your capacity increases. As your capacity goes up, they get more of your attention, which would they crave many times in many cases. Certainly in family law, that's the case. And they experience consistency around the service that doesn't depend on you, one person doing it. For all those things, your clients win. Okay, how do we do that? How do we delegate well? I've got a 5-part delegation framework to walk through that. Now, I'm giving you my personal strategy on that. It's one, starts with identifying what can you possibly delegate, stuff that you need to learn how to do. Delegate well. What I did, And I've done this at different intervals throughout my career where I will actually track by the minute. Now it's onerous. It lasts about a week or so, but I will track by the minute and I'll keep a tab of paper with me. Then I'll compile all that, categorize it best I can, and I'll look for ways I can start picking off things to delegate those. Now look, this has to be done by you. You can't delegate this part of it out. What are the things on this list that the only person on the planet that can do these things is Jeff Hughes? And I'll highlight those and I'll know those are the things I can do. And realistically, the rest of the things, if not all exclusively, they're delegatable. And some of them may be very difficult to delegate to because you got to find someone who's competent, knows how to do those things. And then now what I do as time has gone on and I've gotten fewer things that I am responsible, I still have things pop up and build up on my to-do list. I'll go through that list, which is multiple pages now of just some of them are ideas and things that I've accumulated. I'll say, okay, what can I delegate out? What can I eliminate entirely? And what can I give to someone else? And who can I give that to? With the idea is how can I do as little as possible of things on this list? Now, second part of my framework is picking the right person. Now, this obviously is going to be different for someone in my position than someone just starting off. So that's matching up the task, someone that's got the skills, someone that wants to do that. And it's shocking to me how some folks will just love to do the things that I hate to do. And matching those things up is so rewarding for them. It's rewarding for me. Everyone gets ahead. And there's two resources that stick out to me in this area that I would recommend. One, there's a book called Buy Back Your Time. Excellent book. There's a lot in here about delegating, but it's a lot about outsourcing as much as you possibly can in your life, not just in work. And then really the next level book for that is a book called Who Not How by Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan. I've read that book 3 times. It's exceptional because it's all about finding partners to double up with and do things with, delegating those parts of big, meaningful moves that you're not having to do yourself, you can do with a partner. So those are 2 resources, tons of them out there, right? But those are 2 meaningful ones maybe to start with. Okay, third part of this delegation framework is setting clear expectations. So for me, what that has looked like is giving a specific answer to the question of what does success look like, and being very clear. This is what a win, this is what success looks like on this particular task, and being very clear about that. That's a simple thing to do, but it's so key. Then if there's a deadline with it, a milestone on it, I'm always quick to tell my assistant, hey, look, this is not urgent. I would love to have it in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or this is something I need done today. This is really important to me. I don't have a lot of those, but they do come up occasionally. And then this is where I forget a lot is I try to give ideas. This is how maybe I would do it. Here's some ways you can maybe solve this problem. Here's how to think about it. Because I tend to give really open-ended things like, I need this done. This is my success picture. Go figure it out. I don't paint the numbers in and give them the 14 steps that it takes to get there. I really want to work with teammates that can figure those steps out. Okay, the fourth part, micromanaging to me is hard. That takes work, that takes time, that takes energy. I hate to do that. And so people that work with me really love that because I do not micromanage. People that need more support hate that because they want more support than a lot of times I'm giving them. And there's a yin and yang to that there, but so many folks that are really good at operations, really good at systems and processes. So figuring out how to support your teammate, support who you're delegating to without micromanaging them. That may look like you may need to schedule check-ins with them where you're holding yourself back from checking in until the time of the check-in. You're not checking in every couple hours. You're checking in as scheduled every couple of days or whatever the case is. And for me, the reverse side of that, who doesn't like to check in, is being available for questions. And really, you have to remind them a lot of times, okay, you can ask me a question. It's okay. Come to me. I need to know, or you need to know that I'm here and available. If I'm busy, I'm going to drop what I'm doing. I'm going to pay attention to you, and I'm going to be available for your questions. And make sure they've got all those resources and contacts that they need to make that happen. Okay, fifth part of the delegation framework, follow up and give feedback. So after they've given you the first draft or their final draft, give feedback. Okay, this is not what I had in mind. This is great. Not always the great stuff, right? It's temptation is, oh, that was great. But if it wasn't, say, hey, this is not what I was anticipating. I didn't give something along the way to help them get there. So giving good feedback after the fact, being very specific, constructive about that, recognizing that they did their best, they tried, and let's talk about what I would like to see different into the future. Now, look, another one too is I understand so many of us just don't have a lot of delegation opportunities. And there's just not a lot of people in your orbit and your team. You're not there yet in your career for that to be the case. But I encourage you, it's a matter of starting somewhere. Everybody can start somewhere. And it may mean hiring someone overseas to start that process. And it may mean delegating things that you can do better and cheaper, but it's a muscle to build. Delegation is a muscle that just takes time. It takes reps to do that. And I want to point out one other thing is that around this, I grew up with not much. Okay, my family was on food stamps, government cheese, and powdered milk and all those sort of things. And so for me, boy, when I got $1, I would hang on to that like the grip of death, right? But when it comes to this skill of delegation, over time, that frugality, that can turn into an absolute handcuff. And too often I've been handcuffed by this concept of I got to do it myself. And it wasn't coming from a place of pride in the work. It was coming from a place of fear in losing money and being poor. That's where for me it came from. And so if that describes you in any way, that just understand and recognize, okay, that frugality, that's a virtue for sure, but it can have a dark side. It can turn into a handcuff. Look, we all know that most successful law firms aren't built by attorneys who do everything themselves. They're built by leaders who strategically leverage their time through effective delegation. And if you're ready to break through your current ceiling and create sustainable growth, start delegating today. And also, if you've got value from this video, I think you will really enjoy this next video right here, when to move from working in your law firm to working on your law firm. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you over there.